The family is the bedrock and lifeline of any society. It is the single most important influence in a child's life. On Family World with Paula, together with credible experts.
There's a thin line between respect and fear. I don't want my children to be afraid of me.
So when you don't respect children, three things will happen. One, they will respect you.
We will be exploring and discussing the many different aspects and issues bordering on the family, ranging from conception, motherhood, fatherhood, parenting, relationships to marriage.
Many people are not really ready for marriage.
We will be celebrating men and women who have survived one family mishap or the other and have them tell their inspiring story. This is the show for everyone who came out from a family structure, already owns a family, or is hoping to start one someday. Join us in this enlightening, informative, entertaining and inspiring show as we take on interesting family topics, no holds barred. Like it's a marriage, it's partnership. It's also like a contract. You should also sit down and say, these X, Y, Z are deal breakers for me. Another thing is, have the men evolved?
Have the men evolved? Yes, men have evolved, but I think the women have evolved a bit faster. But since your question is with respect to the men, I think one thing, the men are not as patient as they used to be back in the day. Men are not as patient. I don't know about the demographics, but it seems as if we have so many women in the country. So it's as if there are lots of options. I don't know if that's part of the problem, but men are not as patient, especially when they are distracted. They feel that they do have options, you know, so that doesn't actually help a marriage.
Can you break it down? What distractions are you talking about?
Well, the truth is that, well, what I've seen today, and I'm sure many people have seen it, many women are getting married later.
Yes.
So there are options. Yes. There are many women in the pipeline that want to get married, and they're older now. Now 30 is the new 20.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
40 is the new 30. You know, people are getting married later. You know, you can blame it on education, but I don't think it's all about education.
No.
It's really about women,
self-awareness.
you know, being self-aware and being more ambitious.
Yes.
You know, people having women planning for their lives.
Yes.
Back in the days, people would just want to get out of school and I want to get married, and there's no other plan. I don't know if you've watched the movie Mona Lisa. It's a Hollywood movie, and I watched it, and one of the lecturers was talking to a lady in the 50s, or set in the 50s, and she said, when you graduate, what do you want to do? She said, I'll get married. And then what next? She now looked, I'll be married. And that's the situation many women found themselves in then. But now women have evolved, they want to do certain things. So because of that, marriage is now being pushed to a later date. But the flip side is that some women end up not marrying on time or even at all. So there's a lot of pressure within a certain band. And then with that comes temptation and everything that goes with that. But back to the men and the fact that they're not as patient as they used to be. You know, because they just feel that there's an out. There's an out, and I've noticed in our country today, which is sad, you know, I think mental health is becoming a challenge. When people hear about mental health, it's not just about being mad, no. You know, even when you're susceptible to depression, you know, to very low self-esteem, you lack confidence, I'm seeing an increase in that because of the way the world is moving and the way the economy has played out in the last 5 years. There's a lot of pressure, and there's a lot of pressure on men, and many men are struggling to handle it. And the problem we're having in the country today is because of the denial, the stigmatization that goes with it. People are not getting the help that they need.
No, they're not.
So they resort to different things. For some people, they take the extreme exit, which is, you know, tragic. For some people, they go to the bottle. For some people, it's infidelity. They find something. They find something that they can consume themselves with.
Something,
you know, so that's the challenge some men have in being able to deal with the, you know, the challenges. You know, the pressure on the finances. You know, raising children. Raising children is a lot of work.
It is a lot
because
of work.
when both partners are working, you have less time, but at the same time, you still have the expectations that you want to meet. You know, so there's a lot more pressure in Lagos, for instance, using our state. There's a lot of traffic. You know, your commute can take to and fro 2, 3, 4 hours. That's less time with your family. That's less time at work, and it's more pressure. And people's pressure levels are different. Some people are better at handling pressure than others. That's the reality. You know, and as I said earlier on, men, you know, their maturity levels are not like the women, and they don't have the multitasking thing, which is why men tend to be perfectionists at what they do. If you notice in our world today, the best chefs, the best, maybe engineers, the best. Most of them are men.
Just focus
because
on
they're
that
very
thing.
good at doing
Just
one thing
one
and
thing.
doing it exceptionally well. Women, we can handle them basket, So you tend to have a better capacity at handling pressure. But for some men, for many men, no, that's not. That's what they need to focus. So when there's so much to do, they can actually break under that pressure.
Okay. So we talked about, you told us how men have evolved, and for women, how do you think they've evolved? Because when I think about how my mother was back then in the days and compare her to how I am and how my sisters are today, there's a lot of difference, And what do you think? Do you think women have evolved, and in what direction are they leaning towards?
I would agree that women have evolved. The options are vast now. With the oil boom, with the movement from, there was a time when teaching and being a secretary or a nurse was pretty much your only career options.
As a woman.
As a woman. But in the Nigeria of the oil boom and the oil companies coming in and, the playing field, the work terrain, the corporate structure, you had to start having more women in corporate jobs, you had to start having more women in politics. The ladder is moving higher and the women are climbing up these ladders just as efficiently as men are. And so even in corporate organizations, you would rather give that multitasking person that can deliver on several things a job. So women, yes, have evolved. But in relation to what you said, what our mothers were and who we are, I would relate to my own case study. My mother was a career woman. I am not. I've stayed with business. She found business later in life. I started with business right out of school and grew what it is was my passion, and which is what I still do today. But where I would say we're not so different is we are still passionate about the things that we are passionate about. My mother would still give you hell over not doing anything right or coming in and the house is a mess. I think I'm still very much like that. As much as I don't like to see my mother and myself, I walk into the house, I'm like, "Wah!" And then I remember and I'm like,
you calm down. I
found that in a cartoon where the fairy godmother would count to 10, and that's just the mechanism for calling myself back. Saying, you know what, you are not your mother, you are you. So yes, we have evolved in different ways, in many different ways, and this is because, like I said, the options have become so many for us, and we are bombarded daily with the capabilities and the possibilities of what life can hold. When you as a woman can buy a home for yourself, that wasn't an option 20 years ago. Very few women would grow a business and take money and buy a house in their name for themselves. But we see more of that today.
So is it safe for us to say that this evolution of men and women have contributed to the collapse of marriages in this century, in this day and age? So it's safe for us to say that, right?
It's a factor. It's not the only factor. It's not like the biggest elephant in the room, but it is a contributing factor because we have a way out.
Okay. Let me paint a scenario. I was at a wedding with my husband, and it was time to advise the couple. And this woman who had been married for close to 40 years, maybe 35, between 35 and 40 years, I can't remember what exactly, then picked up the mic and then gave the couple a number of advice, and then she said to the wife, please don't touch his phone.
What?
She said to the wife, please don't go near his phone, do not touch his phone, stay away from his phone. And where my husband and I were seated with the groomsmen, and all these young guys just went, hey! And then my husband looked at me and shook his head. I looked at him and shook my husband. I was like, coming from a woman who was married for 35, 40 years, saying to the young bride and the groom to not touch his phone. Do you think that is right?
We talked about verbal pressure. There is also non-verbal pressure that women face that make them take a lot of negativity in marriage. For example, our parents, our grandparents, our aunties, what kind of marriages did they have? It's hard to break from that, will I call it chain, or from that reference point. You watched your mom. She didn't exactly tell you to take crap. She didn't exactly tell you to tolerate cheating from any man, but you saw her, and that became your normal. Your dad was cheating. He was bringing women home. He probably married so many wives. And never for once did you see your mom react negatively. They told her it's the man's nature. So we, even in spite of our education, in spite of our exposure, it will take maybe counseling. It will take much more than leaving home to take that out of us. So imagine this woman now. She might be rich. She might have money. Her children may be exposed. She may be successful. Her children may be exposed. They may not even be in Nigeria now. But look who raised them. A woman that tells you, don't touch your husband's phone. But I don't.
To answer your question, I would say, with all due respect to the lady, I would say no, that wasn't right. The fact that she's in a marriage with maybe some peculiarities doesn't make that the norm.
Exactly.
You know, the sad thing is that in our society, some women have accepted a dysfunction to be the norm. And that's not right. We need to understand what the right thing is. And when there is a dysfunction in your relationship, you call it out. What's important is the way you call it out. You know, and of course, it would have been better if from the very beginning you had identified it, but you know, that's already water under the bridge. But you call out the dysfunction, because if you don't do that, it affects your children. Your children see that dysfunction as their normal, and then it perpetuates into their own relationships, and it actually gets worse because of the way the society is, and you know, the evolution and everything. People are less patient, they're less tolerant, and all the things that come with it. So when you're giving advice, which is why I said earlier on, you need to get the right advice from the right people. Some people are not good counselors. That's the truth. They use their own personal experiences and say it's normal, it's normal. They try to justify.
So people have to be careful.
What's going on?
So you need to be careful with where you share your problems. You talk to someone that will give you the right advice. Like for instance, if a woman is having money matter issues with her husband, maybe her husband is out of a job, you don't go to a counselor that is also not working or doesn't have a business of his own.
You tell him what he wants his wife to do.
I don't think that would be a good counselor in the circumstances. You know, so you need to go to the right person that will give you the advice both of you need. So in that circumstance, I would say the answer is no. She should have given just general, clear, clean advice, because when you talk about not touching each other's phone, that's a trust issue. It's a trust issue. And so basically what you're saying is it's normal. Do you understand? It's normal for a man not to trust you with his phone.
With his phone. You know, but people see it the other way. They see it on the flip side, that if you trust me, you won't touch my phone. Do you think that's how it should be? If you trust me, you should know that you shouldn't touch my phone. I don't know. I don't know if you've heard that before.
I'm going to evaluate that in further detail.
But I like
because you have a point.
But I like the angle that you're coming from. You are saying you should be able to trust your partner with your phones. You know, but the world out there, the norm generally is, if you trust me, you won't touch my phone.
Some people are obsessed with their partner's phones, and it all starts with a trust issue. So some women, you know, if I can just use our women folk who are, you know, obsessed with using their husband's phones. Sometimes they have reasons. Maybe their husband, you know, people are exposed now. You have people that have international jobs or even work for local companies, but there's a lot of exposure. They're in London today, they're in America tomorrow. For some women, that creates some sense of insecurity. Where are they? Who are they with? Or maybe they keep late nights. Or I was in one meeting, I was traveling all over the place with my secretary or my... You know, there are all sorts of things. Some women have insecurity issues. And that's why you need to understand the baggage people are coming in to their marriages with. You know, because if a woman was raised in a home where she saw infidelity, and it was like the norm, even though that's a dysfunction, she would be looking out for signs of that. She would feel maybe all men cheat, even when they tell you that they love you. So, but it's important for the partner, for your spouse, to make you realize that there's no basis for that. You need to trust each other. It goes both ways. So if a woman is seeking for a man's phone, it shows some level of insecurity. The man needs to probe into what's causing that. And the same goes the other way. The man shouldn't be crazy about, oh, her phone, where were you? You know, I've heard of some men in some extreme cases that have drivers and aides going around with their wives because they are not comfortable leaving them alone. It all boils down to a trust issue. But what I'll just say, the dysfunction should not be the norm. It shouldn't.
Exactly. Okay. Do you think people should stay or strive to stay married at all costs?
I know some people may pick me up on this. No.
Who will pick you up?
Who will pick me up on this? No.
Who will pick you up?
No. Some people may pick me up on this. With all due respect, my answer is no.
Okay, why?
Because some women are dead today, and some men are dead today because they stayed in some marriages.
Yeah.
Some marriages should never have happened in the first place. If you marry someone on a platform of deceit and lies and deception, etc., or maybe some very vital fundamental information was withheld, that marriage should never have taken place. And it's a real thing that some people are hiding things because the project has to be completed. I have to get married, and I must marry this person. This is the person I want. Time. I don't want to wait for another 1 or 2 years to start another relationship. You'll be shocked at
the way she said this project, the way she calls out this project. The project has nothing to say.
It's a project.
It's a project.
That's what they call it.
I want to get married
That's what
this
they call it. I have a marriage
like,
project. I have a project.
It's a project to them. They're not thinking of life after the project. You know, so so I would say no. I think women who are in abusive relationships, and men, because I mean we've been reading the papers, sadly some men have been victims of this. If you're in an abusive relationship, get out. Get help for yourself and for your spouse. And why I say both of you, because people that are susceptible to abuse, there's some damage you may not realize you've suffered. It affects you emotionally.
Even the children.
It affects the children. You know, years ago when I was in my teens, I heard about an uncle that refused to let his eldest daughter get married to a certain man. I was like, why? And he said, all the men in the family were wife beaters. And he told her, he will beat you. He'll beat you.
That's the example.
He said he'll beat you. Because all of them, it's a family issue. That he will beat you. So, you know, so that's what we need to realize, that people need to get help. You don't have to stay in relationships if your life is at risk.
Yes.
You know, but
that's a valid message.
That's
an important
so you can't
message.
say, you know, but the reasons why some people are coming out of marriages are flimsy. You know, it goes back to, you know, not being tolerant, going in the wrong expectations. You know, you've created a wrong picture. You have this romantic story and images in your head. You're not ready. You don't get the right counseling, the right advice. Some parents are also not helping. They put so much pressure. Even when they see the signs, rather than call their children to say, I think you need to investigate this, they don't. Many parents are supposed to go back and do due diligence on the families that they're getting married into. But some of them get so carried away with, oh, it's such a wonderful family. They're so wealthy. Oh, do you know he was the this of this and that? And they don't even care. They're like, oh, everything is fine. Sometimes they even lie to their children and tell them, we've done the checks, so everything is fine. You know, they've not. And then when they go and they're like, oh, I didn't realize, we thought. You know, so that's why I would say people need to be careful. You know, when you have small issues that can be managed, deal with those issues. Don't run out. It's when you run out of a relationship, the damage it causes. When you run out of marriage, the damage it causes, it's unbelievable. Do you know, people who are separated from spouses as a result of death are actually in a better position than those who are separated as a result of a divorce. Because when people lose a spouse to death, your secrets and everything go with the spouse. Yes, it's tragic. You're bereaved. But, you know, it's a permanent separation. And after you get over it, you can move on. When you're divorced, your secrets are roaming around the world with the person and all your demons. Yes. So it's worth trying to deal with the issues. Because sometimes when you think, I'm like, what was the issue? Why did I get all worked up about that? Why did I allow this to degenerate into that and to this? But there has to be a line. And for me, the red line,
to know when to get out.
When to get out. Violence is a no-no. Because you may not get out of that marriage alive.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. Do you have any last words? Do you have anything that you want to say?
Yeah, I do. I want to appeal to people to realize that their children are grown. Realize that the children have their own path in life that may be entirely different from yours. We have a lot of family interferences, and not in a good way. Because if you're interfering to make the marriage better, that's a good one. At times, the interference is to break the marriage for whatever reason. Would you believe that a family might have a problem with you just because they don't understand why your spouse loves you so much? You don't understand why your spouse respects you so much. Automatically, they will say you've done jazz. Therefore, because you're living in peace, you're living in harmony, you've not called them to settle quarrel. Let's break them up. They start coming into the marriage.
So families interferences are another reason why marriages are
Yeah, people are trying to hang on to each other, and then they have a lot more people behind them, not supporting them, but pulling them apart, trying to pull them apart from each other. In this part of the world, that is a major reason why marriages are breaking down.
I agree, and I think to add to that, I think one thing you may not realize is that people that do that, because that happens a lot, they don't realize that that's what they're doing. If you confront them, they would say, no, I'm not trying to break you up. They don't know that that's what they're doing.
That's the end
result.
result.
That's the end result. Because when they keep going to maybe whether it's the man or the woman to say, your wife did this, your husband did this, what they're trying to do without realizing it is pull their own to them and create a wall.
Yes.
And by that, they are breaking you up.
But
if you confront them, they will say, no, I'm not trying to break you up.
Because when they do that, they're kind of asking for support.
Yes.
In other words, they're saying, you have to take my side on this situation.
I've been there all your life, and she just came into
They're worried, especially, and God help you if the man was the breadwinner of the family, the light of the family, paying all the school fees, paying all their bills. They will feel threatened.
You're taking their meal ticket away.
Your new Gucci suits or carry your bags.
Where should extended families draw the line? At what point should they stop and say, no, I am crossing the line, this is the boundary. This is my brother, but then this is his wife.
It's not the extended family.
It's not their responsibility. It's the couple.
Draw the line. Your extended family cannot draw the line for you.
You can only go as far as you let
before you get married,
yes.
And make it clear.
And you thicken the line.
And thicken the line.
Okay. When you say the couple, when for example, there was an issue recently on our Facebook page.
Motherhood In-Style Magazine.
Yes, Motherhood In-Style. We have a Facebook page, and there was an issue recently. It was the mother-in-law who had employed all the domestic staff for this woman, and then she wanted to fire her housekeeper, and the mother-in-law, because the housekeeper had started stealing, and the mother-in-law begged and said, no, you can't fire her. And then the housekeeper denied and said, no, I didn't take anything, it wasn't me. And then she found an evidence, and she showed the mother-in-law. She fired the housekeeper. The mother-in-law brought the housekeeper back into the house, and the housekeeper continued working like nothing had happened. Then there's also the driver who the mother-in-law employed. And then the driver has been coming late to work and has been disrespectful to his employer. But because the mother-in-law brought him, and of course you're expected to respect your mother-in-law, you're not expected to challenge your mother-in-law. So he got away with it 3 times, and then she got tired and she fired him. And then the mother-in-law calls her, and then she refused to pick the mother-in-law's calls because she didn't want the mother-in-law's influences anymore. At that time, she wanted to assert her position and her role in the house, Yes. So I posted. Yeah, that's where I'm coming to now. She didn't mention her husband. She didn't say anything about her husband. So I know that, but there are many people on the page who wanted to know what happened to the husband. My question is, why will they want to know what happened to the husband? Because shouldn't the woman be in the position to handle issues like that without dragging the man in, even though it concerns his mother-in-law? Does she always have to refer him to the husband? Does she have to leave that to the husband to handle?
No. And this is the reason why I say no. You have to have established that this is a rule. We said you will create those boundaries by yourselves together. Those boundaries are set by the couple, not by the wife independently. Those boundaries are set knowing that this is the family you come from. This is the family that I come from. We both know the proclivities of our families. We know the hold that our families had over us before marriage. So in this marriage, to make it a unique scenario, we are going to handle our in-laws as such. Visits are kept to 1 week. Any extended visit has to be for health reasons. outside of this time, I think you really need to go down into that much detail to break things down, so that whatever comes in, whether he's there to defer to or not, she has the guidelines, and she will work within those guidelines, knowing that she will have her husband's backing if ever the need arises for her to have backing. So it's in a scenario where he is hands off, deal with this yourself, that, you know, I would now worry for such a lady who needs to fight on her own, to assert herself in her own home. They are her support staff. Why was it the mother-in-law who even engaged the employees in the first place?
Maybe she was being accepting. You know,
Don't start what you will not finish.
She probably didn't think. She might be a very good woman. Yeah, she raised the husband on her own. We're all women here. You know, she might be a very good woman. She raised a man you saw worthy to be called your husband. So she definitely has some good traits. So it's possible that she has an eye for such things.
But the man needs to protect his wife from his domineering mother. The thing is that he's not oblivious to the fact that his mother is domineering.
What if the man felt or thought that my wife can handle it, I don't want to get involved?
It's a reflection of our society. Many people in our culture don't like confrontation. So they just want to just leave it, you know, deal with it, you know, when you get there, you know, they don't want to deal with certain issues. Well, you have to. Especially when you know that your mother has this weakness. It's not a new thing. It's not like she woke up that day and became domineering all of a sudden. This is something he's grown up with and has seen. So he had to set those boundaries and protect her and dictate the boundaries to his mom. Because it's actually better coming from him and not from her.
But she has to earn her own respect at some point. If you
have
have
I totally agree with you.
You keep running to the man.
Exactly, I totally
to protect you, to fight for you.
No, I agree. No, don't get
When
me
he's
wrong.
not there, you're gone.
No, she don't get me wrong. I'm not saying she will not speak, but what I'm saying is that at the beginning, those boundaries, he sets those boundaries, and then there will be an alignment under the boundaries. If she comes visiting and he's not at home,
and there'll be a platform for her to thrive. There will be a platform for her to be able to speak.
That protects her. But if she's the one setting the boundaries,
alone, all by herself,
he has to align with. They have to agree together. They have to work together. So even if he's not saying anything, but he's in agreement with her, what she has done. Yes.
And I also want to add something. Before people get married, you need to spend time with your future in-laws. People tend to skip that memo. Spend time with your in-laws. It's not just a 1 hour visit. Spend time, quality time.
But are they going to be living with you?
No. Even if they're in the village,
spending time with them, and then when you get married, you say, "I need my privacy."
No,
then it's gonna continue, because when you get married, but you know, you have to also be careful to start, like they say, what you cannot finish. I get what you say. I see where you're coming from. Spend time with your in-laws.
What the kind of people they
are. But what if your in-laws are not the kind of people that you would want to spend time with? And spending time with them means you have to pretend while you are with them. It means that you have to endure them for the period that you're with them. And then you're doing it because, okay, I want to get married. And then after you get married, you suddenly realize that I don't need to spend, really, I can't stand these people, and I just want my own space. Then you change. What happens?
No, that's a good question. What I would say is that when you spend time with your in-laws, you will understand if they have the same value system as you do. And that's a very good revelation before you get married. Now, if you see that you're completely incompatible, then there's certain discussions you need to have with your future spouse.
Okay.
What are your plans for your siblings? Will they be coming? Because some people just assume, oh, when she graduates from school, she'll come and stay with us in Lagos until she gets a job. Or when my brother comes, he'll come and understudy me in my company. You know, it's just an assumption because it's never been discussed, and then it can cause some problems. If you have the same ethos and value system, you will not be as worried, because you know fully well that there's a greater chance of having a good relationship with them. But if you're not quite compatible, you're just not aligned, you see things in different ways, it's an important conversation to have to ensure that that does not become a source of interference in the marriage.
Okay, awesome. Yes, let's... You want to say something?
I wanted to say we are still back to the pressure we put on women. Who's going to spend time with the in-laws? It's the woman. Are we going to tell the man to go spend time with the in-laws? It's all about, you know, there's a lot of pressure on women. You're like, the one that is going to check if they like you, if this, if, and the man just relaxes.
I think that we should also start talking to the men. I've said it on the show before, and I'm saying it again. Men have to be spoken to. Some men, or a lot of men, also come with a sense of entitlement, and they're quite self-serving. And we need to, all the years since I was growing up, since I was a little girl, you know, to becoming a woman, the message has always been for the woman. Churches, woman seminar, female seminar, fellowships for women. Women this. The message has always been for the woman. Yes, so but we need to talk to the men as well, and for them to understand that marriage is a partnership. And I would love to see more men set the boundaries that you talked about. From my experience with posts on Facebook, many of these men do not set boundaries. In fact, when there's an issue with the mother-in-law, the men start coming out to defend their mothers. Yeah. That is a clear indication that a lot of men haven't really set boundaries, because they're emotionally attached to their mothers, but it might not work out for the dynamics between the man, the mother-in-law, and the wife. So we can't stop talking about this. I mean, it's a lengthy conversation with various dynamics, but I do hope that you have learned something. You now understand why marriages are failing in this century, in the world today. Family influences, unrealistic expectations set by the people going into the marriage, and ill preparedness, preparing for the wedding rather than for the marriage. And then also pressure, like she said, family pressure and then work pressure. The world has evolved, women have evolved, and so there's so many reasons. Money matters, as well as infidelity. Yes, are contributing to the collapse of marriages today. Just one last word, and I would ask you, what do you think can be done to save marriages?
Excellent question. I think people should realize that even if you're in a bad state in your marriage, all hope is not lost. If you're studying to pass an exam and you're not understanding the course, what do? You get help. You look for a tutor. You ask someone who is excellent at the subject, please teach me. If we could have the same dedication and passion towards things like, you know, our career, our studies, and put that in our marriage and humble ourselves, because sometimes pride gets in the way, and that's why we don't want to look for the help. We will get the help we need. So we may not have gotten the help from the beginning, but you can get the help where you are. Get the right counselor. And I know, you know, I'm not trying to go into a faith-based discussion, but some people are not qualified to give the advice you need. It may not even be a member of your local church, or, you know, whatever faith you belong to. Some people just don't have that qualification. If you're dealing with a spouse who is depressed, if someone is not a psychologist or a psychiatrist or someone that has enough experience, they can't deal with it. So get the help you need from the right people.
From qualified people.
Qualified people that know how to communicate and that will not take sides.
And that may not be your uncle in the village. May not be.
Sometimes your family will not be the best. Because they tend to take sides.
Some of your pastor might not be the right person.
Exactly. Because if people take sides, which has happened in a lot of cases, trust is destroyed. And what happens is that the spouse that is affected, maybe on the other side, will never listen to that person again. So that's why it's important that you get the right counselor that will win the trust of both, and then you can listen to the person and then get the help that you need.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chi. Thank you, Ngozi, and thank you, Teju. Till we meet again, my name is Paula, and this is Family World with Paula. Bye.
If you enjoyed our show, find us and connect with us on social media. We would love to hear from you. Our social media handles are on your screen.